So it is now time to bring in this guy, Bart Keeler. So it is a 3-way dance here in hour number 2, and he's busted out the Atlanta United mug this morning. Greetings, Bartimus Prime team.
We're celebrating this morning. Atlanta United finally looked like a team that was competent, looked like a team that could adjust to what the other team threw at them, and looked like a team that had some coaching. So let's celebrate, man.
Bart coming in with all guns blazing, as he always does.
Hey, I called him out for it last time, so I got it right. I got to give him praise the fact that he actually coached today or yesterday.
Well,
that's good for Pineda, and I don't think a formation change is going to stick with this. I mean, we can talk about the 3 at the back if we really want to, but it just made sense for that game against Philly,
right?
But the fact that we tried it and it was fairly successful. Defensively, I think there were still some issues offensively, and we can talk about those if we really want to. But from a defensive standpoint, it made a whole lot of sense, and it really did limit the amount of chances Philly created. The beginning of that second half was stressful, but we figured it out. I mean, I think that's the best part is the team figured it out. I don't want to give too much credit to Pineda for in-game adjustments, because it looked like the players on the field were the ones who figured it out. But Pineda's setup allowed them to do that.
Which is what he said after the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people think that coaches, especially in soccer, like they're over there with their play call sheet going, do that. I mean, it doesn't work like that. But he allowed them.
32 Y banana.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, his subs were good. I thought that they were timed well. Killed off the game well. So yeah, Pineda gets an A for that game.
Jared Smith, go for it.
I know he says much after the game and post game that basically like, hey, I gave the guys a plan, they went out and executed it. And it's what I like to see from a coach. And I know people have different opinions on Pineda, but he does the thing that I like to see coaches do, and that I think is important in this era, because as we've seen with so many coaches in the modern era, you can't be Bud Kilmer anymore. It doesn't work. You can't be what's her name, who's coaching Ireland now, who was coaching Houston in 2018.
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, we have to reset the how many days without an incident target for WSL.
Waking up to that report on my that story on my timeline.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had that was one of the 600 tweets I could view, but that was one of them.
Yeah, we can get into that too at some point here in this show. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he does the thing that I like the coaches do, which is when things don't go well, you kind of become a rodeo clown. You're trying to attract attention. You're trying to attract criticism off of players. And when things go well, you're trying to deflect praise to the players. And it's what you do to keep guys up. It's kind of like with like, I was fine with Andrew Gutman not starting yesterday because he had made mistakes in the last 2 games. He gets caught leaning against NYC and gives a goal in the first minute. He falls asleep on a throw-in against Red Bulls. He needed to not start this game. But you brought him in late in that game. You show some confidence and faith in him and say, look, I'm not banishing you to the bench. I need you to come in this limited run and show me something. And he did. And he worked hard defensively. And it's what I needed to see from him in that moment. Does he start against Montreal? I don't know. Let's see what Montreal is going to look like. I don't know if you go 3 center backs or if you go to 2 center backs and, maybe it is Ronald Hernandez at left back again. And maybe it's, when you get forward, it's Ronald Hernandez dropping back to make kind of a back 3 as opposed to a number 6 dropping into that back line to make a back 3. And maybe it's, Ozzy or Sosa stepping up further. Depends on how you're feeling about it, because Montreal, we'll get into it this week, but Montreal is a team that's going to bring pressure on you. They it's Losada. He wants to press you in an insane way. But we'll get to that throughout the week, or y'all will. I'll be in Colorado.
I was going to say, when do you leave us, sir?
Tonight. But he said the right things after the game yesterday. The guy, and I think he's right. The guys executed the game plan beautifully. You got the key moments from your mercurial star, we are not worthy. He will one day return to his people on another planet, Thiago Almada. And is there anyone in the than Joe Bendik?
Yep. Bendik face. Once again, we got to see Bendik face. I know, Bart, that you did have some reffing down here that you wanted to get into. Because, when you do, we always want to bring that to the table, even if it is on a Monday as opposed to a Wednesday or whenever you visit. What specific elements of hashtag reffing down here did you want to get into this morning? Is it Ted Uncle based? Is that what
it is
calling?
Ted Uncle based?
Okay.
I do want to point out that I thought overall Ted refereed the game fairly well. I think he could have given Philly some yellow cards in the first half, but I think we also kind of got a yellow card in the first half for tempers flaring a little bit. He managed that okay, and then gave yellow cards when needed, especially for some persistent infringement. But the one I want to talk about is the goal sequence, right? Yeah. The ball over the top to Gigi. He gets tripped up from behind. The execution of was it a penalty or not was perfect. Had to go to the monitor, sees that it wasn't in the foul. The initial contact was not in the penalty area.
Right.
However, what I have a problem with is if you give a penalty and give a yellow card, you're admitting that that's dog so, right? That's what we do. We don't give red cards for penalties and dog so. We say this is yellow card because of that double jeopardy thing. As soon as you take that and say, no, just kidding, it's not a penalty. The contact was outside of the box. It's still a dog so situation. It's still a dog so foul. But now that you've taken him outside the box, that should be a red card. Philly should have been playing with 10 men for, 70 minutes of that game. And Ted Uncle flubbed that sequence because it should have been a red card to Philadelphia if you're going to take away the penalty and give a free kick because the foul was a dog so foul. And it was a dog so. I mean, he was the only defender clearly going on goal, clearly close to goal. All of the D's of dog so were met. And the fact that was not the yellow card was not rescinded and a red card given was a failure by Ted Uncle to execute the laws of the game in that situation. Because I don't see how that foul in that situation is just a yellow card foul. That is clearly dog so.
All right, run through your D's. For those that don't know your D's for dog so, run through dog so for me.
So it's distance, direction, distance, defenders, right? So how many defenders, right? That we always say last man back, last defender. So that was clearly it. Direction, you're going toward goal. Distance to goal, very close, right? We thought at first it was like in the box, and then we looked at it was 20 yards out, so very close. And then distance from you to the ball. And again, it was like, well, he was very playable. So again, he gave the yellow card for the penalty kick correctly. If you give a dog so foul like that, because unless he said it wasn't dog so, which I don't understand how that couldn't have been, the yellow card for a legitimate play on the ball. It wasn't like he pulled him down from behind; he just tripped him.
Yeah.
That's kind of where as long as you're making contact, like with the feet going somewhere close to the ball, that to us is a legitimate play on the ball. Okay, fine. He gets a yellow card because we get a penalty kick. As soon as you take that penalty kick away, it's got to be a red card. That's dog so. And so I do think Uncle missed that bad. But, Thiago Almada still made Philly pay. And you can't tell me that Thiago did not plan. He definitely meant to do that with kicking it off the wall and then rifling it home.
Okay, so then I know that you feel it is dog so. Make the case for it not to be dog so. If I'm look at it from 180 degrees.
Yeah, so I think the case against it is maybe the direction of play or like the distance from Gigi to the ball may have been a little much. It's very likely he could say, actually, the goalkeeper probably would have got it, which maybe is true. I find it very hard to not give the dog so, but I think you could rationalize it by saying that Gigi wasn't fully in control of himself. It was kind of a 1v1. It was kind of not a 1v1, but it was close to the keeper. Keeper could have got it type of thing. I don't really see how you could make that, but there are ways that you say, okay, well, the distance of from GG to the goal maybe was too much, or the.
But that's why when you make a case one way, what I want is for you to come the other side and then go, okay, what I'm looking for. I want you to make the case for both in case someone may be with you but not understand, or not understand and not be with you. That's why I wanted to have you make the case for both here.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think what triggered me was that he gave the yellow card for the penalty kick foul. And that is pretty consistent with the laws of the game when we say this was still a legitimate play on the ball, but it's a foul inside the box. That's dog. So that's a penalty kick.
Okay. All right. So when you look at so now the other reason that we like to have you on is to discuss things. And by the way, that you end up with activity. This is a busy night for you. Did you go to Fido? And
I did. Yeah, I saw Rich Ransom, by the way, there. So, Rich, thanks for coming out to Fido, watch the game. Saw Abby as well. Saw some other people. So, thanks everyone who came out. We had a few shots, and yes, Abby, I took all of them.
So every shot on net you took yesterday was on target.
Yeah, all 6 of them were taken.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Wow. Man. All right, so let's get into what's going on with the national team. A new episode of SoccerForUSPod is coming out later today. Won't be too much later today because we've got to get off the air. Then we have to download it, and then we put it on the network. So without spoiling the group conversation. Now, well, wait a second. All right, so now I'm processing this. When was this taped?
Oh, it was last week because this is the U.S. women's roster.
Okay.
This was last week. I had a busy week, so I wasn't able to fully
Okay, I was like, because I was waiting for a second. I was like, wait a minute, when was this taped? Okay, so it's the women's national team roster. Okay, all right, so that's coming up later today on the network. So let's discuss what happened yesterday.
Yeah,
on a couple of different fronts, and it's another question. It's the question that I've asked you before in this group stage. When you have a win that is of this depth and breadth, what do we take away from something where the margin was so large?
I mean, I still think you take away a good deal because Trinidad is a better opponent than St. Kitts and Nevis. Trinidad and Tobago is a slight level up. So you can take away the fact that you still scored 6 goals. I thought offensively you looked very good. And I thought, more importantly, you were able to do what you needed to do against Trinidad, which was force errors in the midfield and the back line. Trinidad created attacking opportunities. They're not a bad attacking side, but they do kind of lack that quality, especially without, the best midfielder in Trinidad, Jay Fortune, on the field. They didn't have the quality in midfield or in defense, and we made them pay for that. Especially you look at the Cade Cowell goal for number 5. That was a perfect example of making them pay by creating chaos for them. And that is a plus. And again, I think you look at this team and you say, what more could you have asked of them? Maybe to beat Jamaica, but everyone before the tournament was saying Jamaica is the best team that's ever existed, and they're clearly going to win the Gold Cup, and they didn't even win the group. So again, never trust the Jamaicans. This is my mantra, as you know, when it comes to CONCACAF. But what more do you want? They scored, 13 goals. You conceded 1, and you're on to the next round as the group leader. I mean, you could be Canada, who has to win by a decent margin.
You could be Mexico.
You could be Mexico losing to Qatar. Yeah. But Canada's in a struggle right now. They've got 2 points. They have to win on tonight. If they win or if they draw, they have to hope that there's some goal differential going their way. They're not guaranteed at all a spot in the next round. And supposedly they're the best team in CONCACAF. That's what they've been saying for the past 3 years.
Ask Herdman, correct? Yes.
I got to be honest, John. Maybe Jarrett has options of you look at what the U.S. has done, and I think we have to give some credit to Berhalter for instilling a style and system of play that is clearly transferable across now multiple interim coaches. when a linebackers coach can still coach your team to 6-0 wins, you're doing well. But John Herdman's time in Canada, I just have to wonder where we're at with that, because they have not looked like they've evolved since qualifying. They certainly look bad, just straight up bad in the World Cup. I know there's a lot of issues with their federation not giving them time to train and resources. I get it. But you still are a very talented team, and I'm just not sure what to make of John Herdman's time with Canada right now.
You're not maximizing the guys you have if you're Canada. You have some transcendent players on that field, especially for CONCACAF.
Mm-hmm.
You're not maximizing it.
Yeah.
And like we talked about before, and watch West Virginia, you know how this goes. When you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. And John Herdman rolled out 3 different ideas and philosophies in that World Cup. He didn't really have one to do. And like you gotta at least have something that you're gonna stick to your guns to, instead of your only weapon in the holster was, some sandpaper grit and trash talk. You needed more than that. And sure, that works when you're the underdog and you're on the come up. But once you get the belt, well, guess what? Everyone's going to come for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to adjust, and you have to have a style that's going to work. And you have to be able to stick to what you're going to do and know that it's going to work, and not have to keep changing it every 5 minutes and not maximizing the quality that you have, because you have some insanely talented players in Canada, but it's not working. And if you don't get through this, maybe you make a decision, maybe you don't, because of the issues with Canada. And frankly, that's even more terrifying if Canada is in such a mess as a federation that they can't make a change because they cannot find their ass with both hands on a map.
Yeah, I think that's where we get into the discussion of do you fire Herdman? Do you ask him to resign? How does that work? Because I do think that he took them very far in qualifying, as we saw. I will again reiterate, they massively outperformed both expected goals for and against. So you look at the U.S., who was unlucky really to not score more and get some better results in qualifying. We were, we created more XG in qualifying than anyone else. And I know no one likes to talk about XG, but at the end of the day, the U.S. still created a lot of chances, whereas Canada created some chances based on the way that they play, but those chances were not super high quality, and they just happened to finish them, which happens when you have Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, Tejan Buchanan, Lucas Cobb. Like, you have very talented players, like you mentioned, Jarrett. I'm as a U.S. fan, I am very happy with the fact that we're looking at our third choice squad, outside of maybe Miles and Matt Turner, beating up on, CONCACAF Caribbean opponents. I mean, we've beat both four island nations in the past 2 games, 5 in total in this group. The entire Caribbean is being conquered by Jesus Ferreira.
Rulers of the Caribbean.
But you'd rather be in that situation than where Canada is playing with not like a fully first choice squad, but their preferred players are pretty much in the squad, and it's not great. I mean, you could be Mexico. The U.S. is in a very good spot. That doesn't mean we're going to win the tournament. That doesn't mean we should win the tournament. But I'd rather be in this position, seeing legitimately quality performances over the past 2 games, especially against bad opponents. But you could be Canada, where you were not getting the results you needed against not good opponents.
Or you could be Mexico and just not getting results, period.
You could be losing to Qatar.
Yeah, you could.
I will say, I don't know how they didn't score last night. Like, they were literally throwing everything. And
23, 24 shots on goal last night to 1. And the one that the nation that hosted the last World Championship had was the one they put in the back of the net.
Yeah, it was. Again, I don't know how Mexico didn't score last night, but
it was very similar, honestly, to like some of the Dutch games I watched under Frank de Boer when Frank was running the Dutch team.
Yeah.
where like you're watching, you're like, and the Dutch lose like 2-0, and you're like, oh, that was terrible. Let me go look at how did y'all get 4 XG and not score?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and now Mexico is Mexico is broken right now. That's a different story entirely. But
hey, they did win the group. I think we have to keep some perspective. They won their group. They did beat Honduras and Haiti, but yeah, like it's just been that is a down to earth result.
Yeah, it is, and there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, even and I know like there's I think it's a revisionist thing that we do with Tata Martino's time in Mexico. About it was this, it was that, it was a total failure, it was blah blah blah. Hey man, he still got Mexico to a World Cup. Looking at him right now,
yeah,
man, I think you would kill for that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I think Diego Coca actually was a good hire in the beginning because I think Mexico needed to kind of bite the bullet and accept that they need to be a little bit more pragmatic and defensive. The problem is they just don't have the talent to really execute anything right now. I don't know. Coco, I don't know who is Canada going to. It's not about getting someone who's better than Herdman, right? That's not what I'm saying. It's just has his time passed? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Has he maxed out basically?
Yeah. I mean, the problem with Canada truly is that they have a very good golden generation of players that some older, but like mostly this mid-20s generation is very good, right? David, Davies, Buchanan, Cavallini, we mentioned them. I mean, even Alistair Johnson, players like that who are very good, performing high, playing in good leagues.
Alistair Johnson's going to be playing Champions League ball this year. What a world!
I mean, seriously, yeah. Like they've got really talented players playing in good leagues. The problem is I don't know who's behind them. First off,
yeah.
And they haven't really rotated or like turned the page, which I think you could say the same for the U.S. right now. But there is at least has been some sort of moving on from players, right? Like you saw that Nations League. It was very different from even the 2021 Nations League. This roster is younger, right? We're looking at like last night, Brian Reynolds, DeJuan Jones, who brought Jalen Neal. Like, by the way, Jalen Neal, if Josh Widener is going to Benfica, LA, what are you doing? You've got one of the best young center backs in the U.S. pool. I would be very surprised if Jalen Neal is not somewhere in Europe. And I don't mean like super high, but like if Benfica's for Widener, surely Neal can go to a similar level. I mean, Benfica, that type of team where they're a top dog in a smaller league, I think that could work for him.
All right, so
go to Celtic.
Yeah, so to carry,
please, because half of Celtics players get poached by Saudi Arabia now. Jota's going to go to.
He needs to put on about 20 pounds of muscle, but I think he could do it in the Scottish Premier League.
Hey, look, man, if you want someone to go and get tough, send them to Scotland. They won't play beautiful for most of the time, but
James Sands has looked a lot better, and he wasn't great at Rangers, but I think he learned a lot.
He was not.
He's been really good this tournament.
I will never get over Teemu Pukki when he was like lighting it up at Norwich, being like, man, why didn't it work in Scotland? He's like, man, they just beat the hell out of you up there. He's like, I didn't expect it to be that physical. I'm like, it's the Highlands. What did you expect?
That's all they know.
Yeah.
That's all they know.
It's two teams that play with the ball and everybody else plays terror ball. What did you expect?
Yeah.
I need you to do your research, son.
All right, so for the U20s for Canada, I'm buzzing through the rosters and recent call-ups. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy is 19. Matteo Bunbury, Jarrett, we've seen him with Crew 2. Midfield, you're looking at Jay Herdman. You're looking in defense at, Whitecaps 2 guys, Toronto FC 2 guys that we've seen, Jarrett. You're seeing some CPL folks. Hugo Mbonge, who is 18 with Toronto FC, Whitecaps 2. I'm seeing a lot of MLS Next Pro talent. I'm seeing CPL talent. And I'm not really seeing a whole lot of there. I mean, those
guys can be good. I mean, I just don't want to fall into this trap where we like, oh, they don't have younger guys playing overseas, so they can't be good. I just want to make sure we qualify it because it can make a difference. Like their development could not be reaching its peak. I agree with that. I just don't want to fall into this trap of they're playing either young players playing close to home, so they're not good. I just want to make sure we don't fall into that.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing too, Jarrett, is the CPL is not quite at that level to truly give you international quality. You know, it's getting better, but it's not better than USL Championship. To be blunt, nothing wrong with that. USL Championship has clearly put some kids to top leagues in Europe. I mean,
but I think it's more of a League One comparison, probably with CPL.
I'm trying to be generous. You know, I'm trying to be generous. But you're right. I mean, I think it might be more League One with some USL, and that's because it's new. You know, I mean, USL has had a history of having teams and competition, whereas CPL is, I think, 6 years old this year, maybe 5, something like that. And again, it goes back to kind of the issue that the U.S. had. And when we talk about the missing generation of why we somehow didn't beat Trinidad and Tobago, we're at 6 years ago now. And now we've beaten them like 27-1 since then. We didn't have enough MLS teams with quality academies to not just produce good players, because you looked at Philly or Dallas or Real Salt Lake, they were producing good players, but across the board, MLS academies weren't a thing at the time that these players needed development. And that's kind of where we're at with a lot of the Canadians, where, yes, Alphonso Davies and guys like him developed through some MLS academies, but really developed outside of that, and it was independent of the academy system. Canada's struggling to get to that point, especially when you only have 3 academies right now fully operating. CPL teams are finding their way into that. So they're going to struggle to give you a full complement of roster players, right? It's going to be a little bit like Jamaica or Costa Rica, where you're going to have some very high-end talent, some talent that's not as high-end. But if the floor is just MLS players, which it needs to be for Canada, you're going to do well in CONCACAF. The problem is they're not performing well right now. I think a lot of it does have to do with the federation issues, but it's just, yeah, David, it's because CPL doesn't have. Yeah, Canada sucks right now because of no pro route. That's right. I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot that was the narrative on Twitter. Let me make sure I write that down. But yeah, I mean, they're at a player development section.
It's good thing you can only read 600 tweets a day right now, so you don't have to read about pro rel.
But Jared, if we just instill pro rel, we'll win every single World Cup. I mean, look at England. Look at Italy and Germany. They have pro rel. They've been great the past decade, right?
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Portugal with promotion relegation.
France is the bastion of France is the bastion of consistency with their program. Every year, no problems, no controversies.
Yes, exactly. Wow. Morning, Ted.
I mean, I guess technically Argentina has.
Do not say his name 2 more times. Do not Beetlejuice that man into my life, or I will find you and bring you a plagued prairie dog.
Of course you will. All right, so a couple of other names have popped up on the timeline when it comes to USMNT discussion this morning, Bart. One of them has been Zendejas. And it has not been a tournament where it's a tournament I'm sure that he would like to forget, because of it was an opportunity here, and it has been an opportunity so far that he has not been able to take advantage of.
No, you just said it. He hasn't been able to take advantage of the opportunities. It is a little frustrating because we've seen him play in Liga MX, and he's been very good. I mean, that's why we wanted him. I'm concerned because it's not 1 game, it's not 2 games. It's been 3 games throughout the group stage that he's been unimpressive. And maybe not unimpressive, but unimpactful. Yeah. That's probably the better word. He has not truly influenced or impacted a game yet. And that is a little concerning if you are the U.S. program who, granted, he didn't really have a choice too much to go to Mexico or us. Mexico also cheated to try to get him to come over to them. But, no one's shocked by Mexico playing a little dirty when it comes to dual national recruiting.
Wait, comma, no, ...
Yeah, that's never happened. But, I think the problem is Zendejas was supposed to be the replacement for like Morris or Roldan a little bit, and Areola, like that type of player.
That's the next name we're to talk about.
Well, Zendejas was supposed to be the replacement to those guys. He's a little bit younger, and the goal is like, can he just be a domestic? And I say domestic because he's on this hemisphere, and Liga MX has similar-ish league structure to the U.S. Can you be a domestic guy who can come into camps when we just need someone who can be a good training camp player, or like for this Gold Cup impact and be good? Because we've seen that from Jordan Morris. We've seen that from Areola. We haven't seen that from Roldan. He still is not good, despite what Jason Longshore seems to think. But it's not been good for Zendejas. It's concerning for him. Maybe not for us, because I think we have other wingers who maybe could be good, but it's concerning.
All right, so then go ahead and lay out your case for Christian Roldan here.
Christian Roldan is not going to be a part of the 2026 roster. If he is, we have fallen on very hard times. He continues to, look, he's played in 4 Gold Cups. He has 3 assists. That's it. Not like 3 per tournament, 3 total through 4 Gold Cups. He's had a lot of USMNT caps and has not been anything impactful outside of the Gold Cup. He just is not a player that elevates this team. Sorry.
There you go.
I'm sure he's really nice. I'm sure he's really cool. I'm sure he makes training camp really nice and practices go better and all these things that coaches care about. But at the end of the day, he doesn't bring anything to the field. Sorry.
Subs. Cade Cowell had a busy day and responding after a match where he did not have a good night. Comes back and he was given a 7 by our friends at Soccer America, responsible for the rankings this time out, Arlo Moore Bloom.
Jarrett, I don't know. You tell me about Cade Cowell. I think first off, we have to start with the beautiful mane of hair that he has. And secondly, I think he is a little Adama Traore-esque, where it's like, well, north-south, he's really good. He can make some people miss. Does he actually have the talent to fully beat a team? I don't know, but he's fun to watch.
Bart, do you watch Stranger Things?
Do you?
I have watched it. I do not watch it. I'm trying to think. I've watched
with great
several episodes.
Okay.
Max's older brother, Billy, who is
Yes.
just the quintessential 80s bad boy. I want you to look at him, and I want you to look at Cade Cowell, and we need to discuss how they do not exist in the same room at the same time.
Okay.
It's a fantastic career that Cade Cowell has built on the side playing Billy from Stranger Things.
By the way, wasn't
Cowell,
that same actor was the Red Ranger in the latest Power Rangers edition, by the way.
Oh, God, that's amazing.
So talk about kind of 80s bad boys. It's great.
All the streams.
Oh, boy.
R.I.P. Green Ranger. But Cade Cowell looks like a man who drinks Natty Light and only Natty Light. He looks like he drives a Trans Am. He probably took the muffler off that Trans Am, too. Or at least cracked it. He has stolen a few catalytic converters in his time.
I bet.
He has been arrested more than once shooting the hooch by the Turtle Troopers.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a vertical player, man. And I do wonder if there's going to be somebody coming to calling on him to get him out of San Jose at some point, because he's been really good for San Jose. It's been kind of up and down. He's doing like a lot of guys do, a lot of younger players do. You're looking for that consistency, and sometimes you're still trying to find it, and that's okay. But I wonder if he's going to get that move out at some point soon.
Couple of comments from the Twitch pitch. Burns says when Cal can't overpower defenders with athleticism, he's lost. Works at youth levels and in the Caribbean, doesn't work in MLS
Twitch
Europe. And David, I think we talked about this here, or Bart did on POD, or the Scuffed guys. Cal's has amazing physical gifts, questionable soccer IQ, and decision making.
And that's where I'm with you, Jarrett. Like, I think he has the physical attributes to warrant a move somewhere, out of San Jose, because I don't think he's going to truly develop there. I think he does need to move on. Obviously, we can talk about how the problem is with MLS teams or inside MLS. There's not a really great internal transfer market unless you want to spend a bunch of Garber bucks. So where does he go? Because I don't know where he fits in Europe.
We just
I'm not
joked
quite
about
sure.
it, but Scotland.
I mean, we could talk. Scotland would be one.
If you strengthen him up with his quickness, I think he would be more athletic than a lot of the teams he would be facing. But
I think Scotland's a good shout. Maybe. I mean, I'm saying this because I cheer for them on occasion. Maybe Hearts, where it's like not the Celtic Rangers like have to be good all the time, but like a Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen type situation where it's like you're expected to be the third best team in that league. Yeah. And there's going to be pressure for you to perform because outside of the, 2 matches or the 2 opponents that you're going to have each year, you're expected to perform and win. So, I think one of those 3 second-tier teams might be good for him. I'm also thinking maybe a championship side, like, go somewhere in the championship that is not a relegation threat, but maybe not ready for promotion. Somewhere, again, where the goal is to play well and put yourself in good positions. I'm not sure. I don't know what his ceiling is. I do know what his floor is, and his floor is pretty high.
Man. All right. So, Bart, what else is on your mind this week as we have a day off before we get into the final day of Gold Cup group? And Canada, just so everybody knows, very, very busy day tomorrow. So whenever we post the Power Hour, or when we go on for the Power Hour, 4 matches, group stages ending simultaneously in Group C and D. Canada, big favorite against Cuba to -909. Guadeloupe is a bit of a dog against Guatemala. Guatemala's a +131. Draws a +231. Guadeloupe is a +208. Costa Rica, big favorite against Martinique at a -172. Panama is a +104 against El Salvador. El Salvador is a +258. You mentioned the scenarios in C and D. Panama right now at 6 points. They've got El Salvador. Martinique has Costa Rica. That one could create a little chaos. You mentioned Group D. Guadeloupe, Guatemala, both at 4 points. Guadeloupe right now +3 in goal difference. Canada, the Fighting Herdmans, 2 points, 2 points above Cuba. They need what we refer to as win and some help with the 2 draws. What do you see in C and D?
Well, Costa Rica is struggling. They luckily have a fairly, easy opponent, but Martinique has been okay this tournament, so you can't write them off. They have to win. Mm-hmm. So for Costa Rica, that's going to be a struggle. Martinique just needs a draw, and they're through. I'm interested for that Panama El Salvador match because, again, it's one of those Central American rivalries that is just fun to watch. They don't necessarily hate each other; they just like to beat the shit out of each other. Sorry,
there it is. There's the explicit rating on a Monday.
It's basically a holiday. Does it count? So I'm just curious how both Costa Rica and El Salvador can prove that they are good, because Panama is starting to look like that best Central American team right now. They're playing very well. They made the Nations League finals. They look okay in both of their games. I don't want to give them too much credit, but they look entertaining. And they've been pretty entertaining this Gold Cup. But Group D is where the action really is, because Canada, you're right, they have to win. The problem is, I will say, if they win, and they should beat Cuba by multiple goals, they should. If they win, they are most likely through, because either Guadeloupe or Guatemala, if they draw, Canada's multi-goal win will put them ahead of Guatemala on goal difference. But Canada has to win. And they've been not great at keeping teams out of the back of the net. They've also been, not fantastic at creating scoring opportunities for themselves. They had, I don't want to say got lucky in the first game, but they were not dynamic enough. So I'm curious, but that Guatemala match will be very contentious, I am sure.
All right, and so the way things lay out, the U.S. and here's how it is determined.
This is why, John, I'm like, Group D is the most entertaining because obviously it affects the U.S., but also like I don't know which of these three teams I would want to face.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Right now, the winner of Group C gets the Qataris at Jerry World on Saturday. Back into the doubleheader is Mexico against the number 2 team out of Group C. Sunday at TQL, it is the winner of Group D getting Jamaica, followed by the second place team in Group D against the United States, primetime Sunday night against the United States. So number 2 Group D against the U.S., 9 o'clock-ish kick at TQL on Sunday. So that's what you're staring at right now out of Group D as the number 2 team. Aren't you kind of rooting for Guadeloupe?
I mean, I think that would be cool. They're the team I would feel the least comfortable playing.
Okay.
I don't want to face Canada though, like at all.
And that was I was trying to figure out, is it Guatemala or Guadeloupe?
I would rather play Guatemala because I think I know what type of team they are, and I think that we have the ability to beat them.
Yeah.
But Guadeloupe's an island nation in the Caribbean, so maybe that's what we need because Jesus Ferrer will score another hat trick on him.
There you go. Abby, right now on goal difference, it is Guatemala who is second in Group D. Guadeloupe is right now on top in Group D. Guatemala is second on goal difference. Canada is third and needs help. Cuba, if they win, they go to 3 points. They can't go anywhere. So it's 3 teams, 2 spots. Guadeloupe, Guatemala with 4 points. Canada with 2 points going up against Cuba, who's -4 in goal difference. So that's what you're staring at right now.
And, just, again, be mindful. Canada, they got 2 goals against Guadeloupe in that first match. Guadeloupe defensively not as strong, I think it's fair to say. But, that they got a 0-0 draw with Guatemala and they had chances at the end, but they also weren't great throughout the match. I don't know. Guadeloupe is the one that I think is the wild card, but I don't want to play Canada because it just I don't want to deal with that banter if bad things happen. I feel much more confident about beating Guadeloupe or Guatemala.
Yeah. Okay. And Abby, yes, it was. This was the other thing that I wanted to get into before Bart goes. Yes, the chant happened again last night late. I think I heard the announcement over the PA the first time. Then nothing else was done when it came to the chant. And it is once again in a losing situation. Mexico fans weaponizing the chant against their own team when they're trailing late in the match.
Yeah, and that's the issue right now is...
No, they didn't stop the game, Abby. They didn't get to... In the referee and center ref's mind, they did not get to that third point. They should have gotten to the second point, but they didn't get to point 2 because they were at 90+, and I'm guessing the ref just wanted to get out of town. Go ahead, Bart.
Well, and that's where we're at, right, is that the fans are clearly using this as almost a punishment to their team.
Yeah.
Or at least some sort of admonishment of their team. Maybe they're cheering that for their team. I don't know. After their team.
Get the match over with, yeah.
But that's the problem that CONCACAF has to. It's not the chant anymore because I think CONCACAF has done in matches all they can do. We could abandon matches, but we really don't want to have to get to that. We really don't want to. I'm saying that as a referee. We really don't want to have to get to that point. So now you have to think about how do we take care of this outside of the match environment. And I don't know how that is going to be resolved at CONCACAF tournaments because you can't ban Mexico fans.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who's buying tickets.
True. That's true.
You know, are you going to have a closed door match for Mexico in the Gold Cup? I mean, that, but that's not fair to the fans of, I almost said Qatar, the fans of the other nations that actually have people who live there who like that country. It's not fair. Like, it's not fair for them to not be able to attend either, because again, you can't say no Mexico fans, because how do you know that they're Mexico fans buying tickets? You know, you can't say no Honduras fans. They showed out. Good for them. You know, no Haiti fans. No, they deserve to watch their team play. Especially that's the reason you host this in the U.S. is because you have a myriad of fans who come from all different parts of this region who live here. It's hard, but how do you punish the Mexico Federation, which we've tried again before? We've tried that. I don't know what the solution is, because you cannot just abandon matches in a competitive tournament like this. You can't have closed door matches in a competitive match. And then you can't just be like, no Mexico fans, because they're going to buy tickets and probably come in with like something, oh, if you're wearing a Mexico jersey, you can't come in. Well, they're going to just wear a jacket. Like, it's not, I don't know what the solution is, John. I don't know.
Garrett, what's on your mind?
The problem with the whole Mexico thing is, like, yeah, it feels like it feels like sometimes it is a punishment for the Mexican fans and inflict on their players. But it's also has this petulant, I'm going to take my ball and go home because it ain't going my way kind of thing. And it's just so... It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic, Yeah. It's kind of where I am with it.
Unfortunately.
I'm almost at the point, and this sounds really bad, where if we stop making a thing out of it, maybe they'll stop making it a thing.
No, then they'll feel like they're not
they'll feel like they've won.
Yeah. Right. But that I understand completely. It's just like, I'm tired of having this discussion every time. And it's like, just stop.
Well,
tired of them being dickbags. So
yeah. And I mean, the larger issue here is, and this is why I've always made the point of having Stupidity Down Here as a segment on the show, because if we don't continue to, and I'm going to probably have a double negative here and my mom's going to be driven crazy, but if we stop talking about it, then it continues to have its own lifeblood. And I think that it has to continue to be exposed for its stupidity so we don't forget about the stupidity, if that makes any sense.
I'm wondering if you can withhold winning from the federation for the tournament, right? Like, hey, if this happens, you're not going to get money from winning or participating. Maybe that's something.
So bring out a giant wheel, like
a wheel of punishment?
Like a wheel of morality. Yeah.
Okay.
Like the old MAX cartoons. Put 11 spots on that wheel. Every time the chant happens, you spin the wheel and it's going to land on a player. The player's off.
Ooh.
Do the chant again.
Is it position or actual player?
Oh, we put players' names on there. We just write them with crayon. We put them on the board.
I like it.
and the wheel's like 20 feet tall.
Yeah,
I need like 3 feet.
The Purdue bass drum. You just take it out there, and it's that big.
Yeah, and I need this thing to be like, it takes 3 people to get it going, and it spins for a good 2 minutes at least.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes the same sound that you get in Price is Right when they spin the wheel at the end of the game, and then it just slows down. Whoever lands on, players off. You're playing with 10, but. Just get a big cartoonish wheel and do this, and just, kind of belittle them about it.
Well, and David's got an interesting point. Find the Fed, and then if Mexico's funding the development of other countries, they'll fall farther behind. Yeah, literally, just hand it to all the other nations that are there. And then Rich with a point. Mexico will make it up any CONCACAF money lost by doing a sum friendly in Houston. But no, I like the idea of the wheel of stupidity. I do like that. Wheel of punishment, wheel of stupidity. I do like that. Bart.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, John. Sorry to kind of
no
derail again.
Well,
I mean,
when has the show ever had a rail?
I know. Sorry. I'm going outside the bumpers on the bowling lane here. I think this is one that we really should consider. And this is where FIFA needs to step in. Force Mexico to not be able to play friendlies outside of Mexico. Home friendlies outside of Mexico.
Yeah.
Because this does seem to be a real issue here in the U.S. And we also know that that's where they make their most money. So if you force Mexico to only be able to play, like you can't play friendlies outside of as the host nation outside of your country.
Okay.
That might be a punishment for them because now you're not looking at the cash cow of 75,000 paying $200 a ticket in Houston or 68,000 in Phoenix or 90,000 in LA.
True.
So that might be something. And I mean, granted, they're still going to just play it in, Azteca or Monterrey, but that might be one of the solutions is to kind of put limits on where they can play. And maybe that'll put limits on the amount of money they can bring in. And then you have full control if it happens in Mexico, right, at the game hosted by the Mexican Federation in their home country. You fully can say, look, it's your fans.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can actually take action against you and prevent you from playing in front of fans for whatever. I don't know.
Tease episode 61 for me. You've got a first-time guest.
So, yeah, Ebony is a friend of mine that I've known through American Outlaws for a while. She does a lot of good work for the Shea Butter FC and Diaspora United podcast. She will be down in New Zealand. No, she'll be in Australia, for the World Cup coming up. And she is also a supporter of, she's involved in the supporters groups for both North Carolina FC and NC Courage. So big women's soccer knowledge base there. Needed to get someone's perspective who, is up close and personal when it comes to NWSL. Mm-hmm. She is an advocate for Casey Murphy as a starting keeper. But very, very fun to talk with her in an official capacity rather than just us texting or tweeting back and forth.
And so that'll be up at 1 o'clock on the network. So set your notifications. 1 o'clock, Soccer for US POD episode 61, where they go over the U.S. women's national team roster and how it looks as Bart and everyone else prepares for their trips. I need your itinerary when you figure it out so we can figure out time changes and when you can be on or if we're having to do 1v1s, sir.
Yeah. I think the best thing, John, I'll say is I'm planning to bring some recording equipment. I have a Bluetooth lav mic for my phone.
Okay.
And so I'll be recording via that. It actually is a decent microphone. I've used it a couple times for work. So I'll be recording some daily or post-match stuff there.
Okay.
So that will be something that I'll just send you from that. And there will be short little snippets.
Yeah, no worries.
Probably featuring my travel partner as well, or whoever else I'm staying with that night. We've got a bunch of different guests that we'll have. Just kind of talking about the game and the environment, not necessarily breaking down the game itself, but, what it's like down there in New Zealand. I'll be going to a couple of other non-US games as well. So we want to talk about those. I mean, we're going to the Spain-Japan game. So that'll be a very fun match to talk about, I'm sure. So yeah, we'll be recording a lot. Whether we'll have to figure out how do we do live hits here. But luckily I don't
just dial it up like we do on StreamYard, bro.
Right. We'll figure it out. If I can make it, great. If not, then we'll figure it out. But yeah, we'll do a lot of recordings that way so that we can get content to you, but then hopefully do some morning show hits as well.
You and Luke Winstall. Luke Winstall's covering the hosts for the University of Georgia, and so Luke will be with us there, and you'll be with us down there. So it'll be fun to get all the word going on. So enjoy your Monday, which is now, is today technically a day off for you, or are you working today?
No, I'm working.
Working, yes. Bart is working today on Monday as he's with his Atlanta United mug after the 2-0 win. So, Bart, be good. Enjoy your Monday. Match day on Tuesday, July 4th. Have a safe 4th. We'll catch up with you on the flip side.
Cheers, y'all. Be safe. Keep all your fingers and toes.
Yes, fireworks and things. There's Bart Keeler, everybody. So Bart's done.